The American Civil War, the conflict that changed America forever. What happens when a nation becomes so divided that it turns its guns on itself? In 1861, the United States faced exactly that nightmare. What followed was 4 years of brutal war, enormous suffering, and a transformation that changed America forever. This was the American Civil War. At first glance, it looked like a war between North and South, but it was much more than that. It was a battle over the future of the United States, a battle over slavery, a battle over power, and a battle over what freedom was supposed to mean. By the middle of the 19th century, America was already deeply divided. The North and the South shared the same flag, but they lived in two very different worlds. In the North, industry was growing. In the South, the economy depended heavily on agriculture, especially cotton, and behind that system was enslaved labor. For years, the country argued over slavery, states' rights, and the power of the federal government. Every compromise felt temporary. Every agreement felt weaker than the last. The tension kept building. And then, everything changed. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. Lincoln opposed the spread of slavery into new territories. To many in the South, that felt like a direct threat. Soon after his election, Southern states began leaving the Union one by one. They seceded, and just like that, the country began to break apart. Then, in 1861, war began. What had once been a political crisis became a military conflict. Americans were now fighting Americans, brothers against brothers, neighbors against neighbors, families torn apart. At first, the North said it was fighting to preserve the Union. The South said it was fighting for independence. But underneath it all, the central issue was slavery. It was always slavery. And as the war continued, that truth became impossible to ignore. The fighting grew fiercer, the losses grew heavier, and the nation was being changed by violence on a scale it had never seen before. Then came one of the most important turning points of the war. January 1st, 1863. President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. This order declared that enslaved people in the rebelling states were free. It did not end slavery everywhere, all at once, but it changed the meaning of the war. Now, the Civil War was no longer only about saving the Union. Now it was also about ending slavery. That changed everything. It gave the war a new moral purpose, and it opened the door for black men to join the Union Army and Navy. By the end of the war, nearly 200,000 black soldiers and sailors had served. They did not just fight for the Union, they fought for freedom. Then came Gettysburg, July 1863. For 3 days, Union and Confederate forces collided in one of the bloodiest battles in American history. The violence was overwhelming. The cost was horrifying. Gettysburg became a turning point. It shattered Confederate momentum, and it showed the world just how devastating this war had become. A few months later, Abraham Lincoln returned to that battlefield. There, he gave one of the most famous speeches in American history, the Gettysburg Address. It was short, but its message was powerful. Lincoln said the war was a test of whether a nation built on liberty and equality could survive. That speech gave the war an even deeper meaning. America was not just trying to reunite, it was trying to redefine itself. But the Civil War was not only about presidents, generals, or famous speeches. It was a human tragedy. Soldiers died in staggering numbers. Many more were wounded. Many were sick. Many were never the same again. Families waited for letters that never came. Homes were destroyed. Fields were ruined. Cities were scarred. Grief spread across the nation. This war was everywhere. Battlefields, in hospitals, in homes, in the hearts of ordinary people. No one escaped it untouched. By 1865, the Confederacy was collapsing. Its armies were exhausted. Its supplies were nearly gone. Its defeat was close. Then, on April 9, 1865, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union General Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. That moment signaled the effective end of the war. The guns were finally going silent. But peace did not mean the struggle was over, not even close. The war had destroyed slavery as a legal institution, but it had not ended the deeper fight for equality, justice, and citizenship. Later that same year, the 13th Amendment officially abolished slavery in the United States. It was a historic turning point. Millions of people who had lived in bondage were now legally free. But freedom on paper was only the beginning. The years that followed would bring new battles. Battles over civil rights. Battles over political power. Battles over what equality would actually look like in America. The Civil War changed the nation forever. It preserved the United States as one country. It destroyed slavery, and it forced Americans to confront the deepest contradictions in their history. This was more than a military conflict. It was a struggle over the soul of the nation, and even today, its legacy remains. The questions it raised about freedom, race, power, and national identity still echo across American life. That is why the American Civil War still matters, because the war ended in 1865. But the questions it asked are still with us. What do these indicators really mean? How are they calculated? And how should we interpret them? We'll break it all down for you with the help of some experts to make sense of the numbers that shape our world.